Religion's very real. Spirituality doesn't really affect me.
I really like pretty much everything that he said there. So the best part, without a doubt, was that great quote. Somebody needs to meme this up right now. Atheists have nothing to die for. We have everything to live for. I could not agree more.
My command is this. Love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this. To lay down one's life for one's friends.
In Leviticus, they ban shrimp and crab and lobster. You can't eat these things or you go to hell. You should be put to death if you eat shrimp, crab, lobster, pork.
Again, Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them." After he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples asked him about this parable. "Are you so dull?" he asked. "Don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them? For it doesn't go into their heart, but into their stomach, and then out of the body." In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. He went on, "What comes out of a person is what defiles them. For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. Sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person."
Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance, and saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him,
"Rise, Peter, kill and eat."
But Peter said,
"Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean."
And the voice spake unto him again the second time,
"What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common."
This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house, and stood before the gate, and called, and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him,
"Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise, therefore, and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing."
Finger licking, finger licking, finger licking.
Quote, "He that is wounded in the stones or hath his privy member cut off shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord." That's in Deuteronomy 23:1. So again, let me decode. If you've had testicular cancer and they chopped off a nut, okay, you can't go to church. If you can't procreate anymore, okay, so if you're old, you can't go to church. And this is the best one. If you're circumcised, you can't go to church. There's a lot of fucking guys that can't go to church, man, including me. I can't go to church, but that's good. That gives me an excuse to continue to not go. Isn't that amazing? Because a lot of the justification, I think they do that in the name of their religion today. They're like, well, yes, this is because we're Christians, we're going to chop off the tip of these baby dicks. It's a great idea, really. It's very scientific. Okay, but wait. It says the opposite in the Bible. It's amazing the people who supposedly believe in it never fucking read it. They never read it. Still not done yet.
Blessed is the man to whom the Lord will not impute sin. Cometh this blessedness then upon the circumcision only, or upon the uncircumcision also? For we say that faith was reckoned to Abraham for righteousness. How was it then reckoned? When he was in circumcision, or in uncircumcision? Not in circumcision, but in uncircumcision. And he received the sign of circumcision, a seal of the righteousness of the faith which he had, yet being uncircumcised, that he might be the father of all them that believe, though they be not circumcised, that righteousness might be imputed unto them also, and the father of circumcision to them who are not of the circumcision only, but who also walk in the steps of that faith of our father Abraham, which he had, being yet uncircumcised.
Are you kidding me? There's zero evidence for any of your fucking gods. There's no reason to be certain on it. Just like none at all. Zero. But I haven't gotten to my favorite point yet, which is... it's a fictional fucking character! God damn it, man. It's fake. It's not real. So think, it's like when Megyn Kelly was like, kids, Santa just is white, okay? He's not real! Jesus isn't real. Fairy tales. Because that's what it is. You believe in fucking magic and wizardry and voodoo and Jigglypuff in space. You gotta stop believing things with no good reason. You know, we all need to be open-minded and take in evidence and adjust course and grow.
Welcome back to another FTD Facts episode. My name is Leroy Kenton, and today we're going to be looking at 10 of the biggest evidences of Jesus outside of the Bible. Now, we're going to be looking at some non-Christian pagan accounts, as well as some non-Christian Jewish accounts. So let's get started with this episode and look into the existence of Jesus outside of the Bible. At number 10, we have Thallus, 52 AD. From Thallus's available work, we can conclude that Jesus lived, he was crucified, and that there was an earthquake and darkness at the point of his crucifixion. Number 9 is Tacitus, 56 to 120 AD. According to him, Jesus lived in Judea, he was crucified under Pontius Pilate, and he had followers who were persecuted for their faith in him. Moving on to number 8, we have Mara bar Serapion, 70 AD. And according to Mara bar Serapion's work, Jesus was a wise and influential man who died for his beliefs. The Jewish leadership was also somehow responsible for Jesus' death, and Jesus' followers adopted his beliefs and lived their lives accordingly. The next evidence comes from Phlegon, 80 to 140 AD. And according to Phlegon, Jesus had the ability to predict the future pretty accurately, and he was crucified under the reign of Tiberius Caesar. He also says that Jesus showed his wounds after he was resurrected to people that he came in contact with. Next up at number 6, we have Pliny the Younger, 61 to 113 AD. Pliny explained how the Christians sang a hymn to Jesus Christ as a god in alternate verses and took an oath to refrain from all sorts of evil deeds. The early description of the first Christians documents several things, like the first Christians believed Jesus was God and they upheld a high moral code, as well as early followers met regularly to worship Jesus. Number 5 leads us to Lucian of Samosata, 115 to 200 AD. Lucian was a Greek satirist who spoke sarcastically of Jesus and Christians, but in the process he actually affirmed that they were real people and never referred to them as fictional characters or anything like that. Moving on now to number 4, we have Celsus, 175 AD. Celsus was also quite antagonistic to the claims of the Gospels in the Bible, but in his criticism, he unknowingly affirmed and reinforced the biblical authors and their content. So Celsus, he confirmed that Jesus was able to perform miracles. According to Celsus's writings, Jesus had an earthly father who was a carpenter, and he possessed unusual magical powers, and also he says that Jesus claimed to be God. Celsus's writings is extensive, and he alluded to 80 different biblical quotes, and this would of course confirm their early appearance in history. Josephus comes up next at number 3, 37 to 101 AD. Coming to the ancient hostile Jewish sources, Josephus is a Jewish source, right? And Josephus wrote in detail about Jesus in his Antiquities of the Jews in 93 AD. There are many ancient versions of Josephus's writings, but we can conclude that from them that Jesus lived in Palestine, the area known as Palestine, and he was a wise man, and he was also a teacher. He did amazing things, and he was accused by the Jews and crucified under Pilate, and had followers who were then called Christians. In the number 2 spot, we have Jewish Talmud, 400 to 700 AD. And according to the Talmudic passages, Jesus practiced magic and he led Israel astray. Jesus was stoned and hanged because he practiced sorcery, and he enticed Israel to go astray, and no one came in his favor to plead, so he was hanged. Now, Jewish Talmud states that Jesus had magical powers, he led the Jews away from their beliefs, he had disciples who were martyred for their faith, and was executed on the day before Passover. Yeah, sounds very much like the accounts that were recorded in the Bible, just from a little bit of a different perspective though. And finally, in at the number 1 spot, we have the Toldat Yeshu, 1000 AD. The Toldat Yeshu is a medieval Jewish retelling of the life of Jesus that is completely anti-Christian. The text of the Toldat Yeshu does confirm many elements of the New Testament writings, like Jesus claiming to be the Messiah and Jesus healing those who had disabilities. He also said that Isaiah foretold of his life, and also that he was worshipped as God, and he was arrested by the Jews, beaten with rods, given vinegar to drink, wore a crown of thorns, rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, and he was betrayed by a man named Judas Iscarioto, which is Judas Iscariot in English, and he had followers who claimed that he was resurrected from the grave and ascended into heaven. So we can see that many elements of the biblical record are confirmed by these accounts, in spite of the fact that they were written against Jesus and his followers.
But there's some evidence that he did exist.
Bruh.
It's like a religious belief. It's almost like, you know, somebody, if they really believe in like Christianity and Jesus, like it doesn't matter if you show them evidence of the contrary. It's just like, it's a deeply held, like core, fundamental, foundational belief. Now, it's also the case that sometimes all the information available at your fingertips doesn't mean you'll actually look at it. And people could have like bad information that they're getting.
Yeah, boy!